he kind of chuckled. He goes, we get these all the time. He goes, I was just in his office 5 minutes ago. Nothing came up about LSU. I said, well, can you at least just go down the hall and ask him to deny that he's a candidate? And he goes, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And I'm telling you, an hour later, there was no call. And I said, like, something's up. And like I said, we were right in the middle of it. He was getting ready to tell his team that morning that he was taking the job.
I bet he was probably like, how the hell did they know this?
We got lucky.
Are you tired of the same old weekend routine? Looking for something new and exciting? Then get ready to rev your engines at Throttle and Swing, the ultimate entertainment destination at NOLA Motorsports Park. We're talking about an 80 configuration go-kart track that'll have you feeling like a pro racer. And that's just the beginning. There's also a brand new 18-hole mini golf course and a state-of-the-art arcade. When it's time to refuel, enjoy delicious craft pizza, a full kitchen, and a bar serving up unique cocktails and gourmet coffee. You can also kick back in the outdoor lawn area, complete with a playground, live music stage, a massive screen for watch parties, and free Wi-Fi. Perfect for work or play. Planning a party? Throttle and Swing has you covered for gatherings of any size. So what are you waiting for? Head over to NOLA Motorsports Park on the West Bank and experience the unmatched excitement of Throttle and Swing. Throttle and Swing at NOLA Motorsports Park. Get your adrenaline pumping.
Chocolate lovers rejoice. Scandalous Chocolates has arrived in New York with 4 sensational new varieties.
That's right. They aren't just chocolates. They're an experience. Premium edibles crafted with the finest ingredients, blending sweet and savory sophistication.
We're talking 20 milligrams premium chocolate lips, sleekly packaged, perfect for on-the-go indulgence. Nuts, fruits, caramel, it's an affair you can take anywhere.
At just $10, it's an affordable luxury. Fair trade, single origin, gluten-free, and vegan. Find Scandalous Chocolates at quality dispensaries like Travel Agency in Gotham.
Scandalous Chocolates. When you're in New York, awaken your senses and delight your palate.
The affair you could take anywhere. Scandalous. Are you looking for a unique New Orleans experience?
Check out New Orleans artist Frenchie at FrenchieLive.com.
Featuring original artworks, prints, and more. See it all at www.FrenchieLive.com.
Live event bookings are available. The gallery is open by appointment only.
And for private showings or parties, email info@FrenchieLive.com.
Experience the art. Experience the artist. Frenchie Gallery. www.FrenchieLive.com.
Hey, Jay, you hungry? Like really hungry?
Yeah, I'm in the mood for oysters. Hey, let's check out Trenas.
Oysters? I love oysters.
Trenas features a wide variety of local oysters. Char, grilled, baked, and on the half shell, even the famous oyster log.
Oyster log? I heard about that. You get 6 each of their signature baked oysters, plus 6 fried, all on a cypress slab?
42 oysters. We are going to love it. Trenas is located in the Hotel Intercontinental, 444 St. Charles Avenue, right on the parade route.
Sweet. When can we go?
7 days a week for lunch and dinner, plus a mimosa brunch on weekends, and happy hour daily from 3 to 6.
Happy hour? Nah, you're talking my language.
Great drinks, great wine list. An award-winning chef, Matthew Farmer, leads a team serving the best seafood in New Orleans. Trenas.
Trenas, got it. Let's go.
Walking, stepping down the street, y'all. Talking, never know who you're gonna meet. Dancing, the groove feels so good to me. Singing, wow, yes indeed, y'all. Soulful living is all we know how to do. Place on earth. I'm talking about New Orleans, the greatest place I know. My hometown, the greatest place on earth. Yeah, yes indeed, y'all.
Hello, welcome back, friends and family members and folks for the first time. Welcome back to Only Good Vibes News Network, your source for positive news in New Orleans, Louisiana, and beyond. First, we want to always tell our sponsors thank you so much for making this show possible. Not only our sponsors, but the people who listen. You know, we actually, guys, if you're a loyal listener, please share, like, subscribe, and send it to all your friends. And also stay watching. That's what we really want you to do more than all the other stuff. And if it's your first time, welcome. This show is about positive vibes and putting positive things in the air and finding positive things in your own community and looking at them and just holding them up. And we bring people on because this place in New Orleans, we celebrate the culture, we celebrate the people, and stories that make the city what it is. But what we always like to do is we start off with Palo Santos and Sage. We've already burned that, Palo Santos, and we pull these two cards. The first card that we pull, and it's basically this guy, Dave Levine. He has these cards, and it's just to help the day go along. It helps you think positive. It puts you in the right mode, and you can use it throughout the day as well. So the first one I'm pulling is The Way, and on the back it has a little insignia of it, and it says, meditate, live simply, work with integrity, become compassionate. This is the way. So whenever you think about it like that, you could use that every day. And anytime you have tough times, for me personally, I just like I start my days off with this all the time anyway, just so it keeps everything in my mind. If I start to get anxieties or about stuff, I'll just like maybe say, here, the way, huh? Meditate, live simply, work with integrity, become compassionate. This is the way. So I'm like, wait a minute. All right. It calms me down a little bit, you know? So this next card is Tao. It says, Tao is truth. Follow it, meditate on it, become it, then forget it. Only then you can live it. So Tao technically is the truth. Meditate on it. So remember, meditating is always good for all sorts of things. So without any further ado, we have a very, very good guest, a main person that I ever talked to. If I ever want to know anything about life besides feelings that I have, I would like facts from this person when I'm talking about the Saints. I'm talking about culture in New Orleans. I see him at all the local places that we go to, from Galatoire's to Kingpin, and shout out to Steven and all those cats over there and Billy over at Galatoire's. But this guy has been with us for years and years and years on a beat with the Saints, just making everything for us, and now the Athletic, and just so many different things that this guy's done. We cannot wait to cannonball in to talk about all the accolades he's had, and he's pretty much seen everything. He's definitely seen this team at its lowest, its highest, in the middle, and he knows, as they would say in some places, where all the bodies are buried. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeff Duncan. Welcome to the show, Jeff. We like to tell people thank you for your time, most importantly, man, because your time is the most important thing we have. And welcome to the Fan Cave. Jeff is no stranger to the Only Good Vibes News Network. He's already been on the radio, and we were at a radio situation over there at WGSO. Thank you for all those folks for putting us on a map and giving us a place to cut our teeth and learn how you sound on the mic, and go things live is a bunch different than pre-recording. So, Jeff, how you doing, man? Thank you.
Leroy, I'm doing great. Honored. I got a personal whistle there. I don't know if I've ever had that happen, but it's great to be here. And look, we got a rainy day in New Orleans. It seems like it's been raining every day, so it's fun to come out and share some good love with you, bud.
We're going to have to build an ark, I think, if it probably is not going to stop for a while.
It didn't rain for like 2 months, and now it rains every day.
Feast of famine,
exactly.
Right? That's us, bro. We either have really struggling or we're doing fantastic, and there's no in between. But Jeff, man, so many things to ask you, and I pride myself on, like, I had Thomas Morstead here. Like, the last thing I kind of really wanted to talk to him about was football. You know what I mean? Because this show is about people who are doing good things in the community, and that's the reason why we have you in a chair, why we spotlight these people. And obviously for your job, what you do is a great thing, but you as a human is why we really want to bring people on here because we want folks to know, not only in Louisiana and New Orleans, but all over, that there's a lot of good things happening in this world. You just have to look around and find them. And I mean, you have had so much to give to New Orleans, and I'm sure New Orleans have done a lot of things back and forth to you. Everybody always says it's like falling in love with someone in New Orleans, right? Like you may come here for the first time and you're like, wait a minute, you can drink outside? Hold on, you guys, like all these cool things that you find out about this person, and then you leave and you're almost left wanting more. A lot of people are like, man, New Orleans, man, I can't stop thinking about it. Like if it's a girl, you can't stop thinking about her. If it's your boyfriend, I can't stop thinking about him. And I got to come back and see him again, And so when you come back, you kind of like, oh man, so good again. I think I'm gonna get into a relationship with this thing. I'm gonna move here or whatever it is, And that's kind of the vibe that I want to bring to this conversation is the fact that you are here and you are doing major things. And you have been doing major things, not just recently. I mean, for a long ass time. You have really been a big, intricate part to who we are, representing us, and this representing the Saints, representing the Stories, representing the Times, representing our Athletic, representing a bunch of different things. And I'm honored to be a friend of yours. So my first question I want to ask you is, when did you know in your heart that you was going to be a writer? Like, when did you know that you had the skill? Because writing is a difficult situation. Some people will be like, oh God, are you kidding me? But you take this on as a job. So like, when did you know, okay, I got the knack, I want to do this, and I'm good at it?
I was probably back in school because it always came easy to me, and I always got good grades on my writing projects. So it was just something that came natural to me, Leroy. But I went off originally to college. I went to Eastern Kentucky University. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Went to Seneca High School, and wanted to venture out to college. And my first goal in college, my first major, was wildlife management at Eastern Kentucky University. I thought I was going to be petting little furry animals, like a petting zoo, and I wanted to be the guy. If you ever go out fishing, I know you just recently went fishing. I wanted to be one of those fish and wildlife agents, that came up and checked your license and all that. I wanted to be one of those guys. I love to fish, and I thought that was going to be my calling. And freshman year, Eastern Kentucky, organic chemistry, comparative anatomy, botany. I mean, I was taking these classes, and organic chemistry was the first class I ever took in any discipline that I just couldn't get. If I applied myself, I could always pretty much get good grades. This was the first thing where I applied myself and just couldn't get it. I mean, it just didn't work in my brain. And the further I got into that curriculum, the more I realized this isn't me. I'm not going to be good at this. And I need to change my plan. It was that quick. And I could always write. I remember my older brother, Steve, had been in broadcast journalism at Western Kentucky University. That's where you went for a journalism program in Kentucky. He told me, he said, what you got to do? You got to come back to Louisville. Our mother worked in the medical school at the University of Louisville. He goes, you can go get your electives there and figure out what you want to do, because this obviously wasn't what you wanted to do. And I did. I went back to Louisville, went to University of Louisville, free ride, because my mother worked there at the school, and started in communications and journalism there. And it just took off from there. And I always loved sports, so it just seemed like an easy way to marry up two passions of mine.
Sweet. So like what's very interesting to me is how people like yourself who really are just really great at their jobs, and almost was like when you see them, you're like, they were put on this earth to do that. Like, it, like they're that good. What I find interesting is all you guys always had something that you thought you were going to go down that road, and it hardly ever seems like it's the first thing that you like, I know I'm in. This is me. That thing was the, wildlife.
Right.
But then you're like, dude, oddly, I don't ever like to bring myself into it, but my first thing I ever want to do is going to be a lab archaeologist. Like I want to go. It's like,
what happened?
I realized that I had to go over to Europe for school and some of that stuff, and I was like, I don't know about all that. That's just like, I just want to like scrape on rocks and see if I can find some things.
That was me.
Right. But so when did you write your first article?
Oh gosh, that would have been in college. I worked my way through college. I had 3 jobs at one point. I was working at the local toy store to make ends meet, Thornberry Toys. And I was working at the Courier-Journal, which was the local newspaper at the time, in the sports department, taking calls, like high school calls. They'd call in, hey, I got the Seneca Trinity basketball game, and I'd take the line score. So I was doing that. That's how how I got my foot in the door at the newspaper. Wow. And I was also working as the sports editor of the college paper at the time. So I was juggling a lot of different jobs, but it was good training and obviously good experience for me. And I can still remember the first byline I got for the Courier-Journal. I mean, I grew up reading the paper. My parents got the paper every day. Everybody wanted to get the sports section and look at the sports coverage. And just seeing my name in the paper the next day, I covered like a high school basketball game. I think it might have been Valley High School. I can still remember like the pride of like, oh my gosh, I've got my name in the newspaper the next day. It was just, I probably spent 6 months just taking calls, being an errand boy, fetching coffee for all the editors and writers. And these guys were kind of my idols at the time. Back then, Billy Reed, who worked at Sports Illustrated, and Dave Kindred worked at Sports Illustrated. These were kind of legendary guys like we have here with Peter Finney and Bob Rustler and some of those type of iconic journalists that we had here in New Orleans. Wow. We had those in Louisville, so I was in the same newsroom as them, but I was just a little, snotty-nosed kid trying to figure it out. But getting my byline in the Courier-Journal was a big source of pride for me, for my parents to see it. They were reading the paper, and that kind of led me down the path. But, I was working my way through college, and I can still remember getting called in to the managing editor's office, Steve Ford, and he said, look, he called me and Mark Coombs, my colleague. We both worked our way through the University of Louisville together. And he said, I'm sure you guys are wanting to work at the Courier-Journal one day full-time and be full-time journalists. He said, but that's not going to happen right away here. I mean, it was like his big, teaching lesson. Yeah. Right quick. He said, you're going to have to go away and get a job at a smaller paper and work your way back here. That's how it works.
So what did you think immediately when he said that?
Well, I was devastated. I wanted to stay in Louisville. But you know what? It ended up being the best thing for me. We ended up going away. I got a job in Florida, worked my way over to Monroe, Louisiana after a year. And that's where I first got introduced to Louisiana. I was working up in Monroe for like 6-7 years in North Louisiana, but I often would come down and cover high school sports, the state championships at the Superdome. So I got to know New Orleans. And the epitome in that back in that day was to get to the Times-Picayune. That's where you wanted to work in Louisiana. And it just took me a while to find my way here. And once you get in Louisiana, as you know, you either get it or you don't. I really feel that way. I mean, all my family members are like that. I have family members that absolutely love New Orleans, love Louisiana, and then I have some that don't quite get it.
Yeah.
They're maybe gated community people. Yeah. They just don't understand it. But I got it right away, and once it gets in your blood, it's kind of hard to get out.
That's almost the same way we talking about how you fall in love with the city, right? Like You came and you're like, dude, I think this girl here in New Orleans, I think we can do something together.
I can still remember early on in my Times-Picayune tenure, it's probably like the second year I was there, I came into the newsroom one day. This is when we were at the Howard Avenue office, which is, I think, 504 Golf now. That was our old building. I remember coming in there during Jazz Fest, and I hadn't really come to embrace Jazz Fest yet. It was still new to me. But I go in the newsroom, and there's nobody in the newsroom. I mean, it was like a ghost town. And, I was still full of myself back then. I'd been in journalism for a while. I'd worked in Nashville, worked in D.C., I'd worked in Tampa. before I found my way to New Orleans. So I'd worked in some major markets.
How old were you at that time, roughly?
It's probably, gosh, I probably would have been early 30s.
Wow.
So I was,
So you were still like
fairly young, but seasoned enough. But I remember complaining about it out loud in the newsroom. There were a couple other journalists in there. I was saying, like, how are we going to get a newspaper out? Do people not work here? I was kind of still caught up in that bigger market mentality of like, hey, you got to work hard. You got to have this work ethic. You can't be screwing around going out to the Jazz Fest when we got news to break. And I remember Bob Marshall, who was our longtime outdoor writer. He's won Pulitzer Prizes, born and raised New Orleanian. I remember he called me over and he dressed me down, Leroy. He basically said, hey, maybe you ought to slow down a little bit and think about it. He said, New Orleans culture is basically rooted in Europe. And he said that European culture is, the Europeans are, their citizenry is centuries older than us. They developed their mindsets long before America did. And maybe people down here have got it figured out. And I remember him telling me that, like, there's a work-life balance to everything, and that's that European influence we have here. And that resonated with me. Kind of a light bulb went off, like, hey, you know what? Actually, maybe it's not that people don't work hard in New Orleans or Louisiana. They just know when to turn it off and when to enjoy life as well. And that mentality is what I think makes it so attractive here. It's very much a European mentality.
Chills, man.
It's very much, you go to Europe, you feel that, right? And I really think the work-life balance in this city is second to none in America.
What was his name again? The guy who
Bob Marshall.
Bob, thank you, my friend. I mean, he probably was the person that was the, not deciding factor, but it made you go, wait a minute. Okay. I think that he has something here, and then when you start to embrace that, did you start to feel like, okay, I see how it's working now.
Exactly.
Like
you go into
whatever.
You go into the neighborhood bar, you're in a restaurant and you see a guy walk in a chicken suit or something and you think, what is going on? Who's this crazy guy? And then you find out he's like an attorney or something, right? And you figure out this guy knows what he's doing. He's a great attorney when he has to do his job, but he also knows how to live life and have a good time.
Yes,
there are so many of those people here, and I just gravitate to that.
Well, and you're one of them now, man.
Oh, I know, but it took me a while to figure that out. Like I say the first year or two.
Yeah.
Because you get here, it is a little bit of a shock to the system. Everything's different, right?
A lot of it.
Right. I mean, you get to the neutral grounds on the road. There's no turning. You have to do the Louisiana left. You have to go through the and you're like, what is going on in this city? Why don't they have turning lanes? These little frustrations, but then you realize, oh, you know what? The city's centuries old. When they built these streets, they didn't have turning lane. And more you learn, the more you really love to appreciate it.
But you got an open mind, though, Jeff. I think that's the key. Like the key to coming to New Orleans, liking it, loving it, and staying is understanding those simple things.
Right.
Like you may have to have an open mind to certain things because it's just a different way of using a different muscle in a sense, almost like how we had to do from the pandemic. We had to be like, okay, we gotta do this a different way.
Right.
And that's when you come here, then you're then baptized into it. You're like, oh, wait a minute. And I bet, what did you think the next year when Jazz Fest happened? Were you like, I know how this goes, and then it just pops back up in the middle, and like we back to the race, and then all of a sudden it just, and so that did it help you when you went there, like to not only use it towards Jazz Fest, but to different things that you see that are happening. You're like, wait a minute, I have to take this same approach. You know what I mean?
100%. Started to do more like intentional weekends to enjoy the festivals around here, to get out and enjoy the culture, to learn and embrace the city. I forced myself to do that more so than any city I'd ever lived in. And I like living in DC. I like living in Tampa and Nashville, but it's different here. There's just so much more of a rich cultural history, and the people that live here are so much more interesting. And usually, generally, the people that stay here are the ones that do get it, right? That's why they stay here. So you end up with these people that that just have a real, I think, positive outlook on life and how to enjoy it. And it's funny. I tell our younger reporters now, I do a lot of my interviews over lunch or dinner or drinks because that's how people in New Orleans socialize. I mean, it's very much a part of the culture here. And so instead of just going to your office and sitting down and doing my one-on-one interview with you for my job in a stale office, I'm going to go do it over break bread. Let's enjoy life at the same time. So that exact same mindset is kind of infiltrated my entire outlook on my job.
So I would think that would let people relax a lot more too.
Definitely.
Because they're more like to be like, oh, we're just hanging out at a restaurant, having a conversation. And so more things will probably, they feel more compelled rather than if they were in the office, it'd be tight, I would think, in a sense, because they're like kind of here with tunnel vision. But when you bring it there, like you said, you might be doing an interview and some dude may walk by in a chicken suit, but they'd be like,
right,
this is New Orleans, like help them to say something or just not be like so uptight. It kind of help them relax the interview too, I would think.
Yeah, 100%. And that's all you're trying to do is just trying to get them to be themselves in an interview. But I've learned that New Orleans, this is kind of how it operates. Going out and breaking bread, it's part of the culture here, eating out. And I learned that over time. Now, one of my good friends at the paper for a long time, still one of my good friends in town, was Brett Anderson, our longtime food writer and food critic. And we kind of arrived at the paper at almost the exact same time. So we kind of bonded right away. And I got lucky, Leroy, because that was back in the days where Brett had the company credit card and he had to go out and do reviews of every restaurant in town or visit every restaurant. He needed a wingman.
Yes,
and I was available.
Yes.
I was available every night. So we would go out all the time and I didn't pay for a dime. All I had to do was ask him what he wanted me to order. And oftentimes he'd just say, get whatever you want, but I need to get a bite of it. And those, I can tell you how many times. I bet I've been to every restaurant in the city 10 times because of that, just because of my friendship with Brett. And he was so gracious to invite me along a lot of it. A lot of it, he needed somebody else there. The deal we had at the time was, he couldn't let anybody know he was coming. That was part of the deal. So I had to, it was before I got I've got a little bit higher profile now, but back then I was just kind of working my way up at the paper. So people didn't know who I was. So I would have to call in, put it under my name, or I'd use my credit card.
Oh, wow.
Because he couldn't let anybody
people
know.
People would be like, okay, spruce up everything. You're coming in.
It couldn't be any of that. Matter of fact, he had a fake credit card, not a fake credit card, but he had a different name on his credit card when he paid. He didn't even want them to know that he was there. And I think part of the reason people didn't know who he was because he was a younger guy. He wouldn't dress. We tend to think of restaurant critics as all buttoned up and
bow tie.
White collar.
Yeah.
And that's not Brett. If you know him, he'll wear like a T-shirt with like a Grateful Dead T-shirt or something.
That's a great cover.
Yeah, and so no one ever really knew who he was for a long time. He never did any on televised, TV interviews. So no one knew who he was. I bet for at least a good decade, maybe longer. Because of this kind of undercover act that he had to do. But that was also back when he was doing reviews. And, that was a high profile thing to do a review of a restaurant. They don't do as many as like that anymore now that Ian McNulty's doing the restaurant, basically restaurant beat. Ian doesn't have to do those 4 or 5 bean reviews like they used to do. But man, that was a great period of time when that's how I got to know the city a lot, was through the food and the culture. Which was
one of the, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but a memorable meal with him. Like, you're like, man, this place is really good. I didn't even know of them. Like something like out of all of those things, any place that you may still go to now that maybe even still there, like they just was really good or just something that remember. Because I'm thinking, I've been fortunate once and twice to go with Ian to eat. And I'm telling you, every time I went with him, like people can see him now, but I've never had the best meals ever because they know they're putting forth their best foot. So when you're saying that, I'm thinking, man, Brett, that's a smart thing to hide it. But like now you can't really hide it with the internet and all that stuff. But any place that you just remembered, like kind of sticks with you to say, man, I didn't know this place was so good.
Well, what he's really good at, Ian's very good at this as well, is understanding that being a restaurant critic or writer, food writer in this town, it's not just about the white tablecloth, fine dining establishments. Obviously, that's a big part of the city and what attracts so many tourists here. But there are so many different ways to enjoy the great food here. There's the po' boy shops. There's the meat and three kind of mom and pop neighborhood restaurants. And he understood that immediately, that was part of the review process. You couldn't just review Galatoire's and Commander's
High-end
Palace.
stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
it can't just be that, because most people don't eat there all the time. And he appreciated that business and that cooking every bit as much as the high end. It's just a different serving, a different clientele. So we went to a bunch of those places, but the one that stood out to me probably was the first time I ever went to Galatoire's was with Brett.
Oh, wow.
On one of those Friday lunches. He kept telling me about it. And I'd never experienced it, Leroy. And I go in there and I felt like I was in Paris in the 60s or something. Everybody kind of knew each other. It was classic New Orleans. Everyone's dressed to the nines and people were singing at tables. It was just such a great New Orleans scene. And I felt like I'd gone back in time. It was just convivial, right?
Capsule, right? It was like
everybody was just having such a good time. And he had told me there's some people that stay all the way through to dinner at the same table. I bet. That was magic.
Wow. See, man, that's some good stuff right there. I know Billy and Melvin will be pretty happy to hear that. But so you doing that with him, and you guys. So as far as your first sports, first article on what was it? Because was it Jazz still here at the time, or does it have basketball when you were here? Or
I got here in '99. I actually covered LSU sports in Baton Rouge. So I lived in Baton Rouge for about 6 months, and then I actually broke the story. My first big scoop at the Picayune was breaking the story that Nick Saban was taking the head coaching job. That was a huge get for me, and I stumbled on it. It's a good example of how you have to lift up every rock when you're a journalist. Back then, Leroy, they just fired Jerry DiNardo, and they were really kind of running an undercover operation on who they were going to hire. They were trying to prevent all of us from finding out, they being the chancellor, who at the time was Mark Emmert. Joe Dean was the athletic director. And all the names that were out there were like Glenn Mason was the coach at Minnesota back then. Mark Richt was high-profile offensive coordinator at Florida State. All the usual suspects they were all dead ends. Nobody was talking about Nick Saban. When I tell you nobody, he was not on the radar. And this was back in the early days of like message boards. The internet was just getting, really becoming a thing in '99.
Was he kind of in Miami at that time?
He was a head coach at Michigan State.
Oh, wow.
So this is an amazing story.
Long time ago.
I get on the message board, LSU message board back then. I don't know what the site was, but it was early days of that being a thing. And I remember seeing a post on there where a guy said, I'm an LSU alum. I was out last night at the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, and I saw Mark Emmert, Joe Dean, and Jimmy Sexton having dinner. And it really raised my eyebrows. Why was Jimmy Sexton having dinner with the chancellor and the AD? And I remember sometimes a light bulb goes off in your head. Like, you run a lot of wild goose chases as a journalist. As a reporter, you're chasing, dead ends and speculation and rumor, especially in Louisiana. That's one thing I have learned is there's a lot of people that think they know what's going on that don't. And this one, though, caused a light bulb to go off in my head because this was before Jimmy Sexton, who's a high-profile super agent. This was back when no one knew who Jimmy Sexton was. This was long before he blew up into who he is now. And I remember thinking, well, how would this person know who Jimmy Sexton is? That's unusual. There's got to be some truth to this. They just don't throw that name out. And I called my colleague, Josh Peter, who used to work in Memphis. He started calling Jimmy Sexton. I made calls up to Michigan State. And
did some forensics.
And we all, long story short, by the end of the day, we'd broken the story. Like it all happened that day. We just got lucky, but I pursued it. I didn't ignore it. Like, oh, this is a fan message board. And I remember we were able to break it in the newspaper the next day. You don't break anything the next day in the paper, but back then you could get away with that. I remember our headline said 1.2 million, like in World War II size font. And that was a huge scoop for us and ultimately helped me get the break to get the Saints job when that opened up about 6 months later. And I moved to New Orleans. And at the time, and I don't want to disparage Baton Rouge because I like Baton Rouge a lot, but back then I'm young, in my early 30s, relatively young, and the chance to move to New Orleans and cover the New Orleans Saints, I didn't realize what a break that was for me. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't know the Saints had this crazy passionate following. You know, they'd been kind of bad for all those years under
being polite,
right? Under Mike Ditka, but also from afar, I don't think that I knew about the Green Bay Packers. I knew about the Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I knew they had passionate followings, the Buffalo Bills. I didn't know this about the Saints. I just didn't. For whatever reason, I didn't know it was this crazy.
Because we weren't that great.
Right. I think that's what it was.
We just sucked.
So when I took over in 2000, they hired Randy Mueller, they hired Jim Haslett, and lo and behold, they win the division and win their first playoff game my first year.
Good luck to them, you are.
And I'm thinking, what is this? Is so easy, right? It just seemed and it was kind of a magic carpet ride from there. So I've been on that beat ever since. But that first year was pretty incredible.
So man, you pop that story, and then they just like. So what the message board is, the person, whoever was on that message board, that person was the person who you could possibly thank to say, hey, man, thanks. You really helped me get some footing.
But it's a good lesson, too, to not ignore anything, right? Especially in my line of work, you really have to chase every lead, sort of like a cop, right? A detective trying to solve
trying to crack that
you code. Chase every lead. And we chased that one, and it turned up. I mean, I can still remember calling the sports information director at Michigan State that morning, who used to be at Auburn, so I knew him. And I said, hey, can you check and just get a confirmation or a denial that Nick Saban is interested or a candidate for the LSU job? Because I'm telling you, Leroy, he was not on the radar of anybody.
For nobody.
And I will never forget it. The SID said to me, he kind of chuckled. He goes, we get these all the time. He goes, I was just in his office 5 minutes ago. Nothing came up about LSU. I said, well, can you at least just go down the hall and ask him to deny that he's a candidate? And he goes, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And I'm telling you, an hour later, there was no call. And I said, like, something's up. And like I said, we were right in the middle of it. He was getting ready to tell his team that morning that he was taking the job.
I bet he was probably like, how the hell did they know this?
We got lucky. Somebody saw him, went on the message board. We saw it and chased it and broke it. And I'll never forget it because obviously our competition at the time was the Baton Rouge Advocate, who are now my colleagues.
Yeah, exactly.
But they didn't have anything on the story.
Here's this guy, it's just new dude. I was doing some LSU stuff, and he's like, drops this bomb on us, and like not even coming like on anybody's radar whatsoever. It had to be like, yeah, I guess you went down the wrong hole here. But and then all of a sudden, I guess when they had that no comeback, that's almost like a journalist thing. Like if a person, no answer could be an answer.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I knew something was up because I was friends with him. I knew him.
Right.
So I knew he would call me back.
You'd be like, oh, okay,
oh yeah.
I
thought he might have been blowing me off. It was somebody didn't know me, but I knew he wouldn't do that. And he must have walked down. Well, I later found out he did. He walked down the hall and found out it was all going down.
Oh,
and
wow.
And that was a huge break for me. And this is a good story. A couple weeks later, I finally got my sit down with Nick Saban after he took the job and had the big press conference. You know, it took him a while to get his feet on the ground, but I finally got a sit down one-on-one with him and interviewed him for about 45 minutes in his office. And as we got done, he said, do you have a few minutes to stick around? You got to be somewhere. And I was like, no, coach, what do you need? And he got up from behind his desk and closed the door to his office. And he said, now I got some questions for you. And I was like, okay, what do you want to know? And he said, I want to know why you think LSU is not won consistently. Why do you think this program, a flagship university in this talent-rich state in the SEC, has not been a consistent winner. And it just shows you how he's wired.
Mm-hmm.
He
That's
wanted
what
to
I
know.
was thinking.
He wanted to know from anybody and everybody what he could glean to get better, be better at that job right away.
Immediately.
And I said, Coach, I've only been here like 6 months. I'm not the right guy to ask, but I did tell him what I thought. But, it really gave me insight into how he thinks, that he was willing to learn as much as he could.
He got us championships, man. That's what I always tell people. I don't get mad at Nick Saban. I'm happy for him. I mean, that's the goal, is people want a championship. They get a championship, and his goal is to keep on moving and doing other things. He went and got them championships too.
Yeah, it's like any type of profession you're in, to have that natural curiosity to want to learn and keep learning and don't think you've arrived. That'll take you far.
Jeff, I mean, sometimes you hear certain sentences and things like that, and they stick with you. And sometimes you hear it and you need to hear it. And then sometimes you hear it and you're like, I'm carrying that torch. It's good to hear that. And coming from a person like you who understands all the angles of your gig and your job and finding that big story and doing those things, and then being able to have the coach ask you stuff like that, and then you're able to take it and go, you know what? This guy really is interested in doing the best that he can. Everybody knows Nick Saban. Whether you like him or not, he's great. He's good. He's good at what the hell he does. And me hearing that really helps me out. It really, because I feel like I carry that torch. I try to stay as humble as possible. I don't know everything. I only know about 76 shows of this, of doing this. And I always want to stay humble. I'm always thrilled or excited or blown away when I have a guest like yourself or someone else. And I try and just say, okay, it's just a friend of mine. It's another person that and don't take it too like, yeah, I've arrived, and just understand. And to hear you say that really helps me out and gives me more gas in my tank to go further. So when you talk to Nick, any other questions he said besides that one? He told you that one thing that stuck out, or did he say something that was like quintessential Nick Saban? Like, how did you find out? He didn't know that you broke the story, probably.
I don't think he did, but one thing he did say at the very end, and I've never really repeated this, so I'm going to be saying something that I've never told before. I've told friends, but not publicly. But he did at the very end. He said, let me tell you something, because he's not, if you know Nick Saban, he's a pretty serious, business-like guy. He's not, it makes me laugh a little bit when I hear people say he's not the right fit for the LSU job. We heard that a lot about Brian Kelly. Mm-hmm. I've never bought into that. I'm sorry. If you win, it doesn't matter what your fit is. I mean, Nick Saban wasn't really a Louisiana guy, but he won. And so he seemed like a good fit, right? I mean, look at Kellen Moore. Moore basically just does his job. He's not going to be that guy. His personality is not going to be the guy out like Sean Payton getting drunk on the Mardi Gras float and throwing beers at people. That's not who Kellen Moore is, but he's doing a good job and people like him. That was Nick Saban. And at the very end of that conversation, he said, this first year, I'm going to do everything that they ask me. He goes, I'm going to go to all these crawfish bowls. I'm going to shake everybody's hands. He goes, and we're going to win big, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's exactly what he did.
That's awesome.
That's exactly what he
great.
did. Because if you know Nick Saban, that's not him. He's not going to be out at the crawfish boil, that's Ed Ogeron. Yeah. That's his personality. That's not Nick Saban. But he told me that right at the very end. I just remember thinking, okay, this guy's on a mission, and he succeeded.
I think that the analogy that you just said about how coaches are, how people are in general, that's exactly it. Like they need to, and I guess John Baptiste said this the best. He goes, be who you are because everybody else is already taken, right? And all those guys are quintessentially who they are.
Right.
They're not like.
Got to be authentic.
Yes. And so with Nick doing that, I could totally see him because he seems like, I don't know him well, but he seems like a no-nonsense kind of guy. He ain't putting up with no shit. He's like, you're there to work, you're here to do this, and you do it one way, the right way, all the time, and pretty strict. But he's like, look, that makes me think he knows how to read the room really well. He's like, okay, I know where I'm at here. I know these people love to congregate and they love to get together, but it's not necessarily my thing. But I am going to do that because that's what it's going to take for me to do it. And then once we win, then I can ease back into
Right.
who I am. And
He knew
that
he
makes
needed
me
to get buy-in early on. So to get buy-in, you've got to go out. But that's just not who he is. He's comfortable. But he also knew he had to win to get the buy-in.
because winning makes everything go away. I said that winning is the best cologne ever.
Yes.
Because you can have anything. Like, I really do love that story because it's like it's a real story. It's cool because you broke it, and even more so, you had an opportunity to go talk to him, and he really wanted to know what you thought about how it could help. Like, he's taking everybody's information in, and he's just
Right.
like using it. Okay, this and that, and because I feel like forensicing the entire thing to be the best he possibly can. I want to know what this guy knows because this guy does reporting on all this stuff. What do you think?
And let's face it, he was doing that with everybody he probably encountered early on. It wasn't just me. I just happened to be there that day, but I guarantee he was probably doing it to the assistants in the newsroom. I mean, in the football complex, and
Every
he might have
single
gone
person.
to Mike the Tiger, the mascot, and asked. He was thorough, and he wanted to know, and that was smart because he was coming in from the Midwest. He had never really coached in the Deep South before. So he wanted to find out as much as he can, learn, procure as much knowledge as he could before he went forward in how he was going to attack the job.
That's awesome. So when did you officially stop being a writer for, you don't stop. You can probably still writing about LSU now, whoever else. But when did you more come to Saints, more heavily Saints? Did you move for New Orleans? When did you move to New Orleans from Baton Rouge to kind of focus on the Saints?
It would have been that right after that. Matter
Wow.
of fact, it would have been a few weeks after that. I covered the Sugar Bowl, which was one of the first national championship games. If you remember back, Michael Vick was a quarterback at Virginia Tech. They played Florida State.
Yes.
Bobby Bowden was in his, limelight then. I mean, he was in his prime, and Florida State beat Michael Vick. And then I remember finding a shotgun apartment to rent, like half of a double, like we see so often here in New Orleans and Uptown on Camp Street, right behind the old CC's coffee shop. I spent so many days in that CC's, but this was before the
Shout
Whole
out to
Foods got
CC's.
there. The Whole Foods that's there. I can still remember, Leroy, that was a big controversy when they were going to put that Whole Foods in, and people were picketing, and I thought, what is going on in New Orleans?
Wow.
People don't want this nice upscale grocery store. It'd be different if there was a park or a school there, but it was a rusted out bus barn. It was an eyesore in the community.
That seems to be the personality and the DNA of who we are.
Yeah, the NIMBY approach, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
It's going to cause parking issues, all that stuff. And I remember thinking later on, I guess those people are okay now with that.
Yeah,
Whole
they
Foods
want
being
to try
there.
and kill somebody if they take it away now. They're like, what? You can't live with that shit.
Their property values probably appreciated a little bit.
So
by
you
having
came down, shotgun apartment, and it's just the Sugar Bowl. I guess that happens pretty quickly because if someone can see this guy has it, he broke this story. Nobody, I had to be they had to be looking at you like, what does he know? This guy really, how did he get that information? So they're like, we want him on our team. This guy we want this guy.
Well, there was also, it's a good example in life. Sometimes you just get lucky.
Fortunate.
Yeah, I was fortunate. The timing was perfect. I break that big story. LSU is a big beat at the paper. We have two, in the sports department, the Saints and LSU are kind of 1 and 1A. That you switch them out however you want, but there are two biggest, most important beats that we cover. And I think in general, the fans and the public, that's who they follow the most. But also we were having a changeover on the Saints beat. Some of the reporters that had been covering that beat for a long time won it off because it's a grind. When you cover the Saints or LSU, while it is a lot of fun, you're working 7 days a week. There's an insatiable demand for news and information, and it can wear you down. And the guys have been doing it for years, especially in that really tough Mike Ditka tenure where the team really had taken a nosedive. It wears you down covering bad teams. People don't want to talk to you. A lot of people, it's just a negative vibe.
Yep.
That's why we're on the good vibes network. I love it. But I got lucky because there was a change on the beat. I'd just broken this big story. I was just new to the staff.
Perfect fit.
And it just fell into it. And then since then, the team has been largely good almost for 26 years now. Until this past couple of years, they'd never won fewer than 7 games. And I know that sounds like, only 7 games, but you just look, Leroy. I mean, very few organizations have that long of a run of competitiveness. I mean, 7-9, you're still in it till the end of the year, like in the wild card hunt. So it's really been an amazing run. And before that, the organization really struggled. So it just got kind of lucky.
I mean, so what did you think about Buddy Diliberto when you got here?
I thought he was crazy,
We all did.
I thought only in New Orleans, right? I have a friend that calls it the oil principle, only in Louisiana.
Exactly.
Only in Louisiana.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The oil principle.
The oil principle
I'm going to have to borrow that.
It applied to Buddy D for sure.
Buddy's, he gave me the fan of the year in the 1-15 season. And he also gave me the worst compliment ever. He was like, the first whistle I ever made was chicken wire and paper mache. And he was in the New Orleans Center, and we had to go by before you go in and talk on the show. He goes, "Hey, Whistle, are you married?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not, man." I'm thinking Buddy's going to hook me up. He goes, "I didn't think so. Your wife wouldn't let you out the house looking like that." I was like, womp, womp, womp.
Thanks, buddy.
Exactly. So we went in and we redid the entire whistle and then you can thank Buddy Diliberto for that one time for Buddy. Yeah,
I don't think I knew that.
Yep.
It's funny because people don't realize Buddy D was actually a very good writer in his day. I didn't know that at the time because he was big on radio when I got here, but he had worked at the newspaper before that. And Pete Finney, who was kind of my mentor, took me under his wing, and who I respect greatly to this day.
Major mentor.
Yeah, he's the best. Pete and his whole family. Just great New Orleans family, great people, very humble.
Amen.
And Pete told me, he said, you need to respect, he goes, he may sound goofy, but he's not. And I remember him telling me that, and he couldn't have been more right. I went back and read some of his stuff, and he was a very, very good writer. And look, he was a classic Louisiana character, and that's what makes this city and this state so interesting. It's a compelling place. And in my job, I'd worked all over. There's no place I've ever been with as much rich culture, just the news events that happen here, good and bad. Yep. But it's interesting. It's not a dull place. We're not Des Moines, Iowa.
Right.
Nothing against Des Moines, Iowa.
Right, exactly. But Buddy, you would think a person that had a speech impediment would not go into radio. But the guy did, and he was hilarious. He really was hilarious.
And he was authentic. We talked about that.
He created squirrels. There's a lot of squirrels around here today. You know what I mean? So, what's your first Sinks real story? What's the first Sinks once you got here? You did it. That so I guess Hazlitt and Randy Mueller was probably one of the first stories that you wrote when you got down here. Huh?
Yeah, I mean those early days. They had that great run. They won the playoff game. Hakeem drops the ball.
Yep.
And then look, I got to know Steve Gleason during that time. We arrived at the same time. He got on the team in 2000, the very end of that first season. And Steve was just such a cool cat, as you know. I mean, I'd never met a guy that, you talked earlier, I think we were talking about not wanting to talk about the subject matter of that person's profession with them.
Yep.
That was Steve. Mm-hmm. I would talk to Steve about anything but football. We'd talk usually about where he'd travel to that off season. He would adventure travel. He'd travel all over the world. He'd go surfing in Chile or the Galapagos Islands, or he'd go to New Zealand.
Special guy, man.
Yeah, just an interesting cat. I used to always say this guy would be successful at whatever he chose. He just happened to be good at football, but he'd be a banker. He'd be a Fortune 500 company CEO. And so he was just endlessly fascinating to me. And so I kind of latched on to him a lot. He taught me a lot about how to work the locker room, how to deal with guys.
I love him so much,
he was just such a great person. My favorite Steve Gleason story, I tell this all the time, is going into the locker room. And, this was back when Boo Williams was the tight end, and they just had a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
Boo Williams was a very good player.
Yeah, he was. LSU.
And people forgot. No, Arkansas. He played
Arkansas. Oh, wow. I thought he was at LSU.
No, it's
Wow. And maybe
Arkansas.
he used to give us hell. That was the problem.
But it would go in the locker room, and they had Boo Williams had a huge boom box at the time outside his locker. And I mean, it was just a cacophony of noise. Guys were like taking towels and slapping each, it's like a frat house in there,
Exactly.
That's the locker room. And I look over, this is early on before I really got to know Steve, and he's sitting on the floor in front of his locker. His hair, he had that long hair he had up like in a man bun. And he's sitting there with his towel around him, no shirt, he just gotten out of the shower, and he's reading a novel in amid all this chaos. He's reading a novel, and I thought, who is this cat? Like, that guy's interesting. I mean, I wanted to get to know this guy. Like, first of all, how's he concentrating? It was madness in there. But that summed up Steve, man. He just marched to the beat of his own drum, and he was just a different person. And the more we got to know him, the more I kind of clicked with him.
And still is, man. I ran into him at the Jazz Festival last weekend, man. He's just so inspirational. And I mean, can you touch a little bit on a book that you got you had an intricate part in that. And it's just, I mean, where do you even start? I mean, the guy just has a plethora of knowledge and information. Like you're saying, like he is a one-off. You know what I mean? He's just like, all of us humans are special in things, but this guy, he really is something. You know what I mean? Even now, like all the people he's helped since he's had this thing, like most people just tap out, hey man, but he's constantly driving and doing, and he has a team and he has all these things, but he is really has made this city, not only through after his diagnosis, but even before that. And I think it was Spooge was talking about how if he would have just scooped up the ball, right when he like strip sacked Michael Vick, and he goes, if he would have picked up that ball there, right, it wouldn't have been no punt.
It would have happened,
right? But Steve, the punt really just kind of solidified him. As far as like, because that night, man, I'm telling you, I felt like it could be any football team. They're going to get their ass whipped. Like, the energy was in the building, dude. It was like, I don't care who was on that other side. Those 11 dudes, each time was going down. And then that block punt was just as like the dude, I get chills because I often think about Tarico, who's a good friend of mine. He was like, sometimes you just gotta like not talk and just step back and just like, it gets me emotional because all the shit that we were going through during those times, like there's like at one point that one toilet flushed in Louisiana, in New Orleans, it's just like, it was the wildest feeling ever. And then the thing I remember from that was, regardless of wherever we were, whenever the Saints played, I was in Florida. I have friends in California and Oklahoma, wherever, but people were divided too in some situations, who's coming back, what's all this stuff. But all that shit just evaporated for those 3 hours. And wherever you were, we were all together, man, pulling together and just won again, regardless of whatever we did. We didn't feel like we lost anything. We didn't feel like anything. Shit, I left with Saints tickets and golf clubs and lost everything. But I couldn't even use a Saints club. If I wouldn't have lost everything, I don't know what I would be able to do with all the stuff that I had. So it's just material stuff. But the point was, we were together so much. So when we were in there, all the people that had that feeling without even being able to think about it was waiting to get into the building. I wore a tuxedo and just a whistle. And I was like, this is a red carpet moment. You know what I mean? Yep. Like we were there, man. And that block punt was like, we're back and it's on and we're going to beat this team's ass. And it happens to be our rivals, Atlanta.
Walking